Hello and welcome to the wrap up, where your Toronto Raptors just lost 119-104 to the Golden State Warriors. I'm Oren Weisfeld. With me today, after a long time in the woods, I believe, is Adon Moss. Adon,
I'm back, baby.
tell us about your trip. We have nothing better to talk about.
Well, it's nothing like choosing to go for a big outdoor hike in the province of British Columbia during the great rainstorm of the 21st century. So it was
Really?
wet. It was wet and it was cold, and I only lasted 2 days.
Uh, so it was
But I
like a
escaped the floods. I got back home before the floods
oh,
happened.
I saw that.
Yeah. Oh
Damn. So
yeah.
where you went in the island, like in the north?
No, I was in near Maple Ridge,
No,
big
no.
mountain, big
All
mountain.
right.
Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't matter.
Over my head.
It
Over
was
my
wet,
head.
man.
Yeah.
Gore-Tex, all I learned is that Gore-Tex does not keep you completely dry.
Yeah. No, those hikes in the rain, if you don't have the great gear, you might as well just end your whole life out there.
That's the
Anyways,
phrase. It's not the weather, it's the clothing.
yeah. Yeah, no, I hiked up. I did that like 5-day hike to Machu Picchu in
Oh yeah.
Peru,
Yeah.
and it's just so rainy around there. So you really need to like rent all the proper gear, which I did, so it wasn't that bad, but
Well,
anyways, the Raptors, we're going to talk about the Raptors. Like me in my unshaven state, the Raptors looked haggard out there today. We could say. Serious first question of the night. Did the Raptors go out last night in San Francisco? I know they had an off day there, or was it just Scotty Barnes who went out? I know a lot of people are saying, well, he's hit a rookie wall because he's playing so many minutes compared to like college. Obviously, you play so much more in the NBA, but he just looked depressed. Like, was
he
he
did.
hungover?
Yeah, this first thing that came to my mind, maybe just because I've been there too many times, but it's kind of like when you get up Sunday morning and you haven't been out drinking and you're like making eggs at 8 in the morning, everything's going well, and then your roommate walks in like head down,
Right.
shuffling his feet like a zombie. That was Barnes in the first half, at least. There was one closeout I texted you where he literally just was kind of like, like shuffled over, and there was zero emotion on his face, zero intensity, not a single clap in the air. Like there was something definitely up with Barnes.
Yeah, it was very weird to see him like this. He's usually even the games where he's not playing well individually, he's clapping, he's cheering on
Yeah.
his teammates. He's screaming, and then when he does something nice, like hit a three, for example, which we'll talk about, then he'll like get into it himself.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that. Yeah, like he hit some threes in preseason where he went crazy in games that didn't matter. And now in this game, he hit two back-to-back threes and just like no emotion. It was really weird to see from him. I hope it's not like something like weighing on him and it's just like this one game, but obviously we'll have to wait and see. But since we're already on the subject, and we'll talk about like more broad features of the game, since we're on the subject, Scotty Barnes hitting 2 threes got to be pretty encouraging in terms of his growth as a shooter, right? And Delano Benton for that matter.
Man, those Ben had two early. It's almost like he's following Barnes's progression. Like he had those two early, very quick darts from like the elbow pull up, and if Banton starts hitting that, like his minutes will not diminish at all.
Yeah.
Barnes, well, or anyway, that's up for debate. But Barnes with the three, it's the same thing. Like we were seeing this sudden confidence from 12 feet early in the season, and all of a sudden, 18 games in or whatever, we're seeing this sudden confidence from three. Like like the growth both in confidence and success rate is like very fast.
Yeah, and he needs to shoot it not just for his own self, but like for his teammates. Like people, there was kind of a funny running like theme on Twitter day where people, it's not that funny. People were like shitting on Pascal when he really was like had a pretty decent all-around game. And it's like the way these guys are getting guarded, Scotty has a lot of room, especially at the perimeter there. And then even when he catches it at the elbows, they're guarding him one-on-one often with a smaller player. Whereas Siakam, there's so much help being sent to Siakam. And if Barnes hits a couple threes, teams are just going to be more hesitant to help off him, right? And to like pinch to the nail when Siakam's driving, and they're going to stay a step closer to Barnes. So that's going to be huge. If he can become like a reliable at all catch and shoot 3-point shooter, that takes his game to a whole nother level. But anyways, let's talk about the game in broader strokes. I mean, the Warriors, like, I really think this is one of those games where you can look at the box score and say, okay, the Warriors shot 50% from 3. 22 threes on 45 shots, okay? And then free throw percentage even. The Raptors shot 55% from the stripe. And then offensive rebounds. Okay, no, actually.
No, we did well there.
Did well, but defensive
Defensive
rebounds. Yeah, like the Raptors did take more shots, but it was clearly a problem early on where the Warriors were getting to the offensive rebounds. So I thought that was kind of the story of the game right there. Like, I'm so tired about talking about their scheme because this wasn't a scheme game. This was a game that was like a hustle, a focus, and energy, and then also some stuff that we'll get into like on the margins of just mistakes you can't make against the Warriors.
Yeah, not only 50% from 3, but Wiggins and Poole were each about 75% from 3. And talking about Barnes being on that weak side and being able to hit that 3, like the Warriors, just it alleviates so much pressure when you have multiple dudes that can just hit it wide open all the time. And we kind of anticipate, I know you don't want to talk about scheme, but we kind of anticipated this, that like if they're going to try and bunker bust those pick and rolls up top, like the Warriors are going to make them pay, and they did.
They did, but like as we'll get into in the clips in a little bit, it wasn't only like one thing that really was frustrating me that the Raptors were doing early in this game was pressuring. There was one play that people will remember where Draymond inbounds the ball and then he sprints and receives like a pass right back, and Scotty guarded the inbounds and didn't expect him to sprint, and so now it's a 4-on-3, and Draymond's always going to make the right pass, usually to the corners in that situation, right? And then it was a lot of that. It was a lot of Draymond gets the ball, they pressure him too much, he drives past the person pressuring him. And then, so that's your first mistake right there, is pressuring Draymond when he, like, if he shoots, he shoots. That's okay. And then the second mistake is now they pinch off the corners to an extreme degree because they're scared of Draymond scoring. Like, make Draymond be a scorer in that situation. Even once it becomes a 4-on-3, I'm okay with Draymond taking like a contested layup or a floater, completely committing off the corners and letting Poole and Wiggins just have a fucking practice night tonight. Was just like very weird to me, but it did not feel like scheme based as much as like, oh, Scotty's just making a mistake right now.
Yeah.
Oh, Banton's just like, Precious is just these young guys are making, like, it wasn't Fred or Siakam really making these mistakes to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to really. I told myself I wouldn't harp on Siakam because he's been playing so well. I think defensively he does kind of, or I've noticed in the last couple of games and tonight a little bit, where he gets caught in no man's land on that weak side, where he's neither pinching fully or like there for the closeout. He's just kind of like, eh. And he seemed to have lacked the energy on defense. I don't want to really single him out, but that was one problem. The other thing I've noticed all year, and I kind of want to just find clips on this, but like our closeouts are atrocious.
Oh
Like,
my God. Thank you for bringing that up.
Everybody does it. Boucher is probably the worst because he thinks he's going to block everything, but Svi did it today. Gary does it. Like, they all just jump. And like, you're taught in grade 8 basketball to never jump on a closeout ever. And a lot of these guys, I think, would not be hitting those shots as easily with a contested hand as opposed to a pump fake and pass or a pump fake and shot. That was really annoying.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull up a clip that was gonna be in our film study clip, but I'm happy you brought up the closeouts. But first, I will disagree with you. I think Siakam, I actually thought his D was one of the best since he's returned from this injury today. Like,
well, what does that say though? But okay.
Yeah, it's not a ton, to be honest, but I didn't think he was the problem on really either end tonight. But okay, so this is exactly what you're talking about. Hopefully this video will like stop buffering once it plays a second time, but this is an out of timeout. The Raptors go zone here
Yeah.
in the second quarter. And if not for just a wild closeout by Svi here, they had a masterful zone possession. And
Yeah.
like that's tough to do against the Warriors is play zone in general, but they had a great possession and then it's just blown. And this is what I talk about on the margins rather than scheme, just like guys losing their focus.
Yeah.
Like he didn't need to do that. If he just closed out a little more slowly and made Poole take the first three, which was a very long three, and he would have had a guy in his face, that's a good shot to give. But like just doing this, and you're right, it's not just him. Boucher's been bad at it for years, and I actually thought he got better at the end of last year. He's gone right back to his bad habits. The closeouts are incredibly frustrating. You're really right to bring that up because
Yeah.
this is what I mean about the margins rather than the scheme. Like the scheme is not to block 3-pointers. Nurses even said, like, sure, that's nice, but I just want to get a contest. It's like these guys get like it in their head, like, oh, I could block this shot if I get out there. And it's just like, no, stop doing that, please.
I mean it's the contrast of really a perfectly well-oiled machine versus a young, like, uh excited but like still learning team,
Mhm.
like Golden State's going to make all the right passes, all the right like little like pass fakes, pump fakes, whatever. And we play a great possession for 85%, 95%, and then we overextend ourselves. Like, we've talked a lot about Gary or whoever else gambling on those passes. Fee got caught with one earlier in the game. And that it's learning when to be aggressive, how to be aggressive, the right points, that kind of thing. But blown closeouts, there's no excuse. Like that's just not sound basketball.
Mhm. On that note, though, like I was watching this game with my dad, and he's going crazy every time the Raptors like come back to 10 and then blow it again. But it's just like the expectations need to be dumbed down a little bit. Like we're playing the Warriors on the road without OG in Utah. Like I never expected them to win this game, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like what you said, the Warriors are a really well-oiled machine playing at the top of their game right now.
Yeah,
The Raptors are a really young team who have had a lot of guys coming in and out of the lineup due to injuries and all that stuff. And so it's just like a lot of this stuff is to be expected. A lot of these like small marginal mistakes are to be expected. And these are things that they have to iron out as the season. Like I'm okay
totally.
with people worrying, if we're at game 70 and like
Exactly.
these same mistakes that we saw today are happening again and again. But like this early in the season, it's their first road trip, extended road trip of the season. I just expect a lot of these things, and I think like we should all expect these things. Like, I don't know if I've brought up this stat on the broadcast, but I've definitely written it. Like, the Raptors are the very least experienced team in the league when accounting for if you exclude Goran Dragic's minutes.
How can you exclude Goran, man? He's part of the team.
Yeah, he's a real voice on the
The
bench.
sage Slovenian on the bench.
Yeah, he's so sad too on the bench. He's not even like a energy guy
I
on the
saw him
bench.
giggle once.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of the things like I'm really not freaking out about this game because a lot of these things were expected. I think if OG and Utah were back, which sounds like they will on Wednesday, which is really good news. I mean, what do you think the rotation will look like once those two are back? Like, who's getting kicked out? Because you just said Banton, he's playing really well right now. It's gonna be hard to kick him out. Flynn, you're out of here. Everybody knows that. Like, you're not playing. But yeah, like who besides Flynn, I guess, is gonna get a real cut on their minutes?
Well, Svi played 20 minutes tonight. Like
Too
I
many.
think,
Too
yeah,
many.
I think I'm a pretty big fan of Svi. I think like he works hard. He's the only guy that both quick triggers a three and you feel confident about it and gets to the rim and finishes and or kind of makes the right decision. He's
Yeah.
not the greatest player and like he has his shortcomings, but I feel, and this is an aside, but I do like him probably more than most. But he's probably losing a lot of minutes.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like we kind of have like a curse of too many like guys, and it's kind of
Bigs, right?
yeah,
Like,
bigs
yeah.
especially like Precious and Boucher, both who played much better today. Like
Yep.
Precious played really well. If you
Yep.
look at his stats, he had a great game. But also eye test, he was back to his old self of like sprinting down court. Like our transition defense was pretty shitty, but he alone was getting back and then running back on offense. Like that was the pressures earlier in the season, which is probably a confidence thing. So, and then Boucher's kind of looking good. So I don't really have an answer because I don't really know, but I will say that I don't love how Nurse is doing like mix and match lines all the time. Like I can't even keep my head on straight of like who's playing with who at what times. Like Delano seems to play a shit ton in the second quarter and then disappears in the second half. And like, I don't understand it. And I guess I get that you kind of want to go with the guys who are hot and cold, but with young dudes, the inconsistency is like maybe a lack of confidence, like or affects your confidence, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so that bothers me. But yeah, I think yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I think Boucher could maybe disappear. I don't know that he's really done enough to warrant uh, higher volume minutes.
Yeah. You hit on a few things there, and I'm gonna try to touch on them. But
Please do.
oh yeah, so in terms of the rotations, like I went to a game recently for a story that I was planning to write that mattered, like the lineups they were playing. So I was tracking every single lineup they played, and at a certain point, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like every like every minute a new guy comes
I
in, and
know.
it's like I literally like this is literally pointless. And I agree with you in terms of rhythm and where guys are getting their shots
Totally.
from and chemistry and who they're playing with. Like sooner or later I feel like he has to get to a real rotation. And I want to give him slack because it's early in the season and the rotations and there's been injuries. But I said the same thing last season, and he never settled on a real rotation.
Mm.
So I can't even say it like it's gonna all of a sudden come together. 20 games in. Last season, it was literally all season he was trying to find groups that Max, to be fair, last season the team sucked, so he never found those groups that made sense. But I agree that like they should look better when they settle on some things, just some groupings.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do, like with OG out of the lineup, like that completely changes
Well,
how they stagger these guys, right?
and no one's been healthy. On your note about like rhythm, it doesn't show here. I swear to God, Flynn had 2 turnovers or at least one. But like he came into the game ice cold in the fourth, I want to say, and
Hmm.
immediately like lost the ball twice. And that's like a good microcosm of what we're talking about. Like a young guy who's cold, who feels like his confidence is in jeopardy already, or trust is from the coaching staff is in jeopardy already. Like it's hard on these players.
Yeah, but I will say with that stuff, like just nothing is given to you in this league, and if you gotta come in the fourth quarter, you gotta perform in the fourth
Yeah,
quarter. Like, I do think there's a certain
that's fair.
but in terms of, like, guys getting 2 minutes in and then out for 2 minutes and then, like, changing it as much as I just wish he rolled with it a little bit more, with groups a little bit more, rather than being so reactionary as he's been this season.
I would say like I wrote about this last week. Like Barnes on the bench is like heresy in some way sense, but like also might solve a lot of problems, especially like you're saying about like having some consistency off the bench. Like I wouldn't mind a little bit of a bench mob kind of style where you have the 4 guys that you know are going to come in, cause havoc for like 6 minutes in the second and 6 minutes in the third or whatever, and then a little bit of mix and match on top of that, and that's it. Like I would like to see that, and I think Barnes and maybe Gary as like the overlap could, or Barnes off the bench and then Gary as an overlap could be that kind of bench mob.
Yeah, I think if they can survive with Barnes and whether it's Gary or Svi, like, but only Barnes out of the big four, I guess. So OG, Fred, and Siakam all sitting at once. If they can survive with that lineup, they're like in great shape. And I think maybe they could with a lineup something like Banton at the one, but really Barnes is at the one, but like Banton and then Svi or Trent, like you said,
I think it'll be Yuta,
Barnes.
not Svi.
Yeah, and then Utah, I was gonna say at like the 4, and
Okay.
then Precious or Kem.
Yeah.
Something like that, I think could be really good defensively, especially. And yeah, like it makes sense for Barnes to just run point at certain points in the game. Um, but and then on the other point, in terms of OG and Utah coming back, which honestly is so exciting because we haven't seen Utah play in so long, but like I don't want to overhype him too much, but he's really good, and he's kind of what they need in terms of like a guy who can knock down threes, but also play within the defensive system really well and not make these mistakes.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and Lewis beat me to it, but and you did too. Exactly. He's the guy. He's the
that's
savvy,
true.
like role playing glue guy defender that's gonna kind of keep everything in check as best he can.
Yeah. Hey, Lewis, how's it going?
Hello.
Um, Lewis, if you want to hop on, let me know. Um, but yeah, in terms of those two coming back, Flynn is obviously out of here, and then the thing is, Boucher is complicated. I think because I really think that, like, as mean as this sounds, they should sell high on him at this trade deadline, or like not necessarily high, but like you got to keep playing him if you're planning on to trade him for anything substantive and hope that he keeps trending upwards. Kind of, he would be a guy that I would say like Utah should get his minutes, but I think they got to keep playing him. So I'd say probably Banton uh, maybe goes to the G League, to be honest, at some point, and then Svi, I could also see his minutes getting cut down a fair amount. Um, yeah,
I think logically that makes sense. The only thing is Banton's been really the only like consistent bench guy.
yeah, yeah, and I like what he brings. So yeah, we're gonna get to the clips here soon. I have one I think that was with him, but I do like what he brings. But I just think like basically the G League season this year is split into two. There's like a tournament that goes through the end of December, and then there's like a whole nother season that starts up in January or February. I think he could get a lot out of playing for like that tournament, like the first part of the season, and
Mm.
then they bring him back for the rest of the season, which is after the trade deadline. There's more minutes, and I just think he could learn a lot more and get a lot better in a G League setting where he has the ball in his hands all game. Uh, Especially if it's just going to be like for a month or two. I'm okay with like the hit the Raptors take, I guess, like in the grand scheme of things.
I agree. I think big picture, the dev is what's important. And like the one game he played, he had 30, but I think he took like 3 shots outside of the key. So like that's great. It's great that he can excel at that level and not be slowed down at all. But like we got to start working on his outside game, and that's where he can start experimenting. So
Yeah, people are already yelling at me in the comments,
yeah,
and I totally get why. Like in terms of a playmaker off the bench, he has been so essential. Like getting Precious going, even like he's a true point guard, and like he gets guys involved, and he does a lot of things really well. And especially if he's going to knock down like pull ups, of course he's like an NBA player already. But I just I just think when Utah and OG get back, that's a lot of minutes. I think people are underrating how many minutes those guys need collectively.
yeah.
And Banton can use like, you know, he can definitely use some G League. It's not a bad thing to go to the G League as we've seen before.
No, that's true. One side note, I just saw MOD said chewing on it. When I was watching the finals, my partner came with me to watch, and she was like, "Why the fuck does that guy keep chewing on his mouth guard?" And now I can't stop getting annoyed by it myself. So I concur with you, MOD.
Yeah, my dad was also complaining about that, but he's just upset whenever the Raptors lose. So I think is it time to get to some clips here?
Yeah,
Break
let's
down
do
some
it.
clips.
Hopefully
All right.
they're not in 100 uh, pixel rate or whatever.
Yeah. Let's just go chronologically if we can here. Shout out to Don Yang who's producing the show tonight.
Respect
Thanks,
on.
Don. Oh yeah, so this is just a defensive breakdown. Two guys go to the ball.
2 closeouts.
This
Yeah.
is this is Scotty Barnes. I mean, is it actually?
Do they switch? I think they switch. No, they don't. Well, it's
Scotty,
Gary's fault. I mean, well,
yeah, Scotty's in no man's land, and Gary's kind of guarding too. And then I think it's Scotty's fault because Gary's being asked to guard two when I don't think he really should have been asked to guard two. And then he goes to one guy, he commits pretty hard, and it's a pass to the corner for a three. So I just think like, did this ever need to be a 2-on-1 on the weak side? You know what I mean?
well, I think their game plan was obviously to take Curry out. So that, like, the way they're set up there, it tells me that they're trying to, limit him altogether. But whatever happens, there needs to be communication there, and there wasn't,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Like if Gary, like someone's got to say something, because you just, at that level, you can't have two guys closing out one dude.
That's true, but in the first place, Kem is the help. I'm not too worried about Steph getting to the rim here. I just think like,
And Looney's the roller.
yeah, I think Barnes freelances a ton, and this is a situation where he's kind of ball watching. He does that a lot, and this was his worst defensive game. I'm not gonna lie. Like usually off ball, he struggles because he freelances, and like I think we've gotten pretty used to that. But usually on ball, I find him to be like pretty reliable because even if he gets blown by, he can meet them at the rim. Like he recovers extremely well. But tonight it was just like terrible. Like even the blow-bys he couldn't recover, and like his footwork was just awful. It was just like, are you pressing up on them or not? Are you shading them right or left? I really think he did some things last night. But anyways,
He definitely looked flat-footed. There's no question.
yeah. Anyways, that was this possession. It was just like wanted to show that they were making rookie mistakes. But yeah, let's go to the next one. This one pissed me off. Clearly, I'm a little upset tonight. So Banton grabs the board. This really doesn't matter that Fred got a layup here. That's beside the point. But Banton grabs the board, right? This is a team that wants to play in transition. This is a 2-for-1 opportunity, and nobody runs. Literally only Banton runs. And then he just has to slow it down. Like, yes, they get something in the half court, sure, but that's beside the point. You gotta run. Like when Banton gets a rebound, like Pascal's not running, Svi like starts running, and Svi and Precious both go to the same corner. So it's just like this should have been a transition opportunity. And for a team that needs as many transition opportunities as possible, when your 6'9" point guard grabs it off the rim, that's a pretty good start if you run alongside him.
And he was doing that early, and he is like Westbrookian in that sense. Like he's a one-man fast break. Watch Boucher though; he's like watching the ball the whole time. Like that.
I thought that was Siakam, but yeah, that's Boucher.
He's been annoying me the whole time as well. Like he's so obsessed with getting the ball. Like he, like you said, he should be running right down to the block or the short corner, so Banton can get that lane and find him on the lob. Like it's not hard.
Yeah, if he just sprints to the rim, even if he doesn't get a pass, the defense is going to have to collapse to the rim more, and then maybe a corner shooter is open. But you're right. He's just kind of watching the ball and seeing how the play is going to develop instead of like making something happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, but like how bad they are in transition is
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it's just because like that's what they're trying to achieve, and they're just not very good at it.
Yeah, it's just annoying because like if all they did was like the same half court offense, the same defense, but they were like a good efficiency transition team with how much they ran, they would just be like 15-5 or so, or like whatever.
But the number of times they've missed a gimme or have just been blocked at the rim.
Yeah.
Like Boucher and Precious both just can't figure out when to pick their points of attack, or like when to go up with it and when to like bring it back out. But again, that's like a youthful error thing.
Yeah, and I think that bench mob that we were talking about earlier with like Barnes running point, that they have to like get their points in transition, that group specifically. Like if you're gonna have Banton and Barnes on the floor at the same time, a lot of it has to come with cutting and with transition.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move on.
I think my clip is a positive note, so
Perfect,
we got some
perfect.
positivity coming. I don't know if it's this one or not. This is mine. This is just like a good. I don't think we have the full clip, but this is when they do play great defense. Like they're rotating, they're helping, they're recovering. I mean, anytime you end with Draymond shooting a contested 3-pointer, you've done a good job defensively. We unfortunately don't have the full clip, so can't really like talk about how it unfolds.
Yeah, that's
But
okay.
but I just remember it standing out as one of those rare possessions where we kind of maintained disciplined defensive possession.
Yeah. Well, it shows that you were looking for positives,
That's
which
right.
is nice. I
I'm an
wasn't.
optimist.
I
I
was
don't know if you
only
know anything about me, but
no, I mean, I usually am too, but when they get outworked this hard, I gotta bring up the bat. But this is like a good example. Just looking at the box score, Draymond had 3 shots all night, and like game planning for the Warriors, you gotta want Draymond to shoot, right? So that just shows that the game plan, whatever they planned to do defensively, did not work. Looney had 4 shots and Draymond had 3. Like out of the whole, definitely starting lineup, but even like bench, those are the 2 guys who you want to like make you beat them offensively, especially Draymond. And the Raptors just could not do that. Instead, he had 14 rebounds and 8 assists.
yeah,
So it was a perfect Draymond game. Like that's how Draymond wants to play. He doesn't want to
totally,
take it to the rim.
totally.
So yeah, but all right. Who do you who do you want to be the tax man of the night? And it could be a Warrior too.
Oh, it could be a Warrior.
Sure. I mean, no one deserves it realistically on the Raptors.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to find someone who had Siakam. I would say was the best Raptor tonight, and that's like hard to even
I
right.
mean, Wiggins definitely deserves it.
Okay, Canadian Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, I think like obviously he was filling it up from three, but when it's kind of funny. Like I've heard anecdotally about how like the Warriors talk about Wiggins and how like they have to remind him about how much potential he is, and they have to like get him fired up. And
Yeah,
obviously, playing Toronto has some sort of meaning to him, and you can see like when he gets in that like 15-foot range in isolation, you're toast. But he's also like cutting on the short corner and he backdoored Pascal like 3 times. He didn't always get the pass, but he was cutting and getting those open lanes. And so yeah, I think Wiggins was the guy that stood out most from both teams. So taxman of the night, Andrew Wiggins, Canadian.
yeah. Shout out, shout out to. Oh wow, sorry, Don, if you can adjust this, but it is funny how Wiggins just shows up against any team that he has like some slight connection to, whether it's the Wolves or obviously the Raptors. Um, any other teams he has connections to?
I Cleveland. They
Right, I
trade they
guess.
traded his ass,
Yeah, yeah.
or general
No, and I
manager
think
LeBron did.
oh, that was the dunk I was trying to find. But yeah, that Cleveland is another one who like the stats show that he's just
Oh
played
yeah.
really well against those teams, and he played the Wolves recently and had 2 big dunks on Cat. And yeah, exactly. Like he needs reasons to get fired up, which is pretty funny. But
He
I agree that he's probably your tax man of the night.
he had another finish in either that Minnesota game or the Detroit game on Stewart, who I don't know if we want to talk about what happened tonight or not, but and he literally jumped, hit the guy square in the chest in the air, and then like very easily finished the layup, like bounced off him, or the guy bounced off him, no problem. Like
Yeah,
Wiggins' athleticism and strength is actually insane when he's locked in and flexing it full on.
for sure. And like they were talking recently about on the low post about like who's the most important Warriors player outside of the big 3, and people were or it was a thing on
Zach,
NBA Countdown.
yeah,
Yeah,
Zach Lowe was talking about that. Yeah.
And then Zach was like, it's obviously Wiggins to me. And I think it is pretty obvious. Like, he's such an inconsistent player, but if he gives them consistency in a playoff setting and those other three guys are going, like, Wiggins, the fourth option, is like an incredible luxury. And I think really good. But yeah, like, okay, so visit canamtax.com. If you got to do it, tax season is coming right up. Everyone got to do their taxes this year. No cheaters. And this was a good year to get some money back because the government spent a lot of money. So don't just try to do it yourself on one of those websites. Go to canamtax.com. They're going to do a great job for you. You're going to get your money back and everything's going to go really well, just like it did for Andrew Wiggins tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Great read. Question for you. Can Siakam and Pascal play well together? Sorry, can Siakam and Barnes play well together?
Can Siakam and Barnes play well together? Yeah, I think so. I think so. First of all, Siakam's starting to hit some threes.
Yeah,
which he did not do last season. That's big. And also Barnes, the way he plays, like, he's not demanding much right now. He's just like, he's happy to just facilitate, set screens, stand in the corners, do all the little things that it takes to, like, succeed alongside some other guys who are ball dominant. So I think, like, short term, I think it can work. One thing I'm going to watch for this season is if they can survive without a center on the floor, like the OG Barnes Siakam front court. If they can rebound well enough and, like, avoid foul trouble and all the stuff that, like, small ball lineups have trouble doing, then they can definitely work, because then you can look into the future and say, okay, I can start my three best, wing players. I don't have to bring one off the bench but if that group can't rebound and is having trouble fouling and stuff like that, and can't score in the half court, then it's like, all right, well, I can't bring a max player off the bench, and Barnes is going to play himself into a max contract realistically.
Wow.
Like a rookie max. It's a fun max.
I know, but
yeah. So then you have concerns. So I'm definitely watching those small ball lineups, but you don't think they can?
I think they can. It seems to me that Birch has unlocked or to some degree has unlocked our offense, our half court offense, however sad that is. Can Barnes play that role offensively? I think probably. But if you have Birch and then you have Barnes, Siakam, and OG, like, I guess that's kind of begging the question of whether Barnes and Siakam can be your 4 and your 3 in that situation. So I mean, that's to your point. It's like, So I don't know what the answer is, but it is something to watch for, I think, because they do get a little bit clogged, especially if Pascal's not hitting his shot or Gary's not hitting his shot.
Yeah, and especially when there is a center on the floor, like you said, with Birch. But I do think it's too early to say. I want to see how this season goes. But I also feel like, obviously, like, on paper, it's not an ideal fit, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this team shakes things up in the offseason in regards to Siakam, right? Or even like a player like Gary Trent. Like, what if it happens to be that it's not out of the realm of possibility that, oh, they actually look best at the 2-3-4 playing beside a center, and they don't really make sense. Well, then you have to start them at the 2-3-4, which means Gary's on the bench, right?
Yeah.
And OG is your 2. And then also Gary only has one more year on his contract after this season. So, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they look at this roster after the offseason and say, maybe we have to trade Gary in order to start all these guys rather than, like, Siakam. I don't know. Shout out to Gary Trent, though. He's had a great season and very impressive. I would like to see him take it to the rim more, because he has opportunities where he can, and then he'll shoot like a floater.
Yeah. I also just love that his intensity doesn't seem to wane. Yeah. Like, if anything, he gets a little bit complainy but he's always locked in. And we need that, especially at nights where we kind of look lackluster like tonight, even
Yeah.
though he wasn't shooting well.
And this is a great comment. The more those two play together, I really think they could be like elite in transition together. Like both have turned like Siakam has turned himself into a good playmaker in transition. Barnes entered the league as one. Both good finishers. Uh they're just like they're a menace. And if they're both on the floor in transition, that's why they should make the core of a really good transition offense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I also think like I think like when Barnes becomes more of a focal point of this offense, I think they're going to blend better together. And right now, like they don't really use Barnes. I've been talking about this like in the post or even in the high post, and I think running some stuff through him there will unlock stuff for Siakam as well. Then hopefully that's going to evolve over time.
Yeah, do you want to say anything else about this game, or do you want to talk about LeBron James and
Let's
Isaiah
go. Let's
Stewart?
run it.
Let's run the clip. I mean, if anyone wasn't watching the NBA tonight, LeBron James hit Isaiah Stewart with an elbow or a fist. I'm actually couldn't really tell.
I thought it was an elbow, but someone told me hammer fist, so like maybe a UFC term. I'm not really sure. It looked like, dude, get
Yeah.
off me, like a shrug elbow back, and he just caught him like full on.
Oh, look at this coach. What? Let's watch the bottom left corner right here. Watch this
Can we
coach get trampled.
can we see the original incident though first?
Okay. Oh, so bad. Oh yeah, it's right here.
Okay, see on the right
Oh
side,
yeah, yeah.
LeBron like he looks like he's holding him, and
So he
LeBron just
says
puts him
sorry. He does say
immediately.
sorry. My question is, how did it escalate so much from here? Oh no, I guess he was always pretty upset. Like, was LeBron egging him on, or was he like sorry there?
Yeah,
That's what I'm curious about.
I think this was the climax of a lot of physicality throughout the game.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think LeBron was frustrated. And the thing is, LeBron's so savvy that he could have totally meant to slug him in the face and then act as though he didn't mean to. Like I wouldn't put that past LeBron, but it does look like he didn't mean to hit him full on like that. But then
Yeah.
what unfolds, like imagine Stewart at Malice in the Palace. He would have been in like the nosebleeds, like body slamming like families and stuff. Like his like testosterone levels are through the roof.
Oh my God. This is crazy. Like, this is something that's so rare in the NBA. And then he goes again. Like, oh, so many guys to take him down. And Cade got him. Shout out to Cade. Honestly, we talk about like young guys and being mature, but like it actually matters in settings like this. Like he would have
Yeah.
been suspending a lot of games if he made it to LeBron and
Oh
swung
my God. Yeah. And
and money.
Cade was the first guy to block him too, and it's not like he tried and then let him go. Like Cade followed him the whole way and held him up. Everybody else got pulled over. And
Yeah.
then at the very end, I don't know if you see it, but he goes in the locker room and then he fucking
Yeah. Yeah.
beelines it in the locker room.
I hope it shows it because I mean, usually in most arenas, like you can get around through the other tunnel.
Right.
So I was thinking maybe he's trying to just get around to the other tunnel and get back to the court through that, but like obviously they stopped him.
Yeah.
He definitely does not respect COVID because he's just everyone is touching his blood like the whole time.
Watch it. Yeah,
Oh,
here he
here he
goes.
goes. Yeah.
The push off and then the sprint. It's so good.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty intense.
I can relate. Like I know when you're at that he's an ultimate competitor. Like that guy battles against everybody. And you know that has a double-edged sword. Like when those things set you off, there's no turning off the switch, right? Like that's how he's full on all the time. So it's
Yep.
fitting he's in Detroit.
Yep. I'm just gonna see if I have any more notes here. Oh, where's my notes? Everyone can
Everybody
see.
look at how he takes notes.
Yeah, no, I don't
This is
really.
how I take notes.
Oh, a handwritten note, man. A real traditionalist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Very good. That's very good.
Chicken scratch.
I should do that because it's kind of annoying. Like, it's annoying to pull up the computer. I
It
do it on my
is.
phone, but then my phone always dies like it did today. Yeah. But the only thing I have written down that we didn't talk about is like at a certain point, is Siakam's finishing no longer just bad luck? You know, where like everything seems to like roll around the rim and then not go in. It's like maybe he has to change his approach around the rim. I don't know, like a little more arc on the shots, a little more use of the glass because it's 2 seasons now. I mean, this is not a season, this is a few games, but it's last season and the start of this one where he's really struggling to finish looks that should be really easy near the rim, and they're just going, like, in and out or bouncing around, and it's just like, I don't know if this is a bad luck thing that's gonna eventually even out or if this is a thing that he needs to, like, actively think about more.
Yeah, it does seem to be an ongoing thing. It felt like, especially last year and even in the bubble when he was struggling, that 30% of his brain is thinking about foul or like getting the foul. And, his exclamation every time he does a layup might even just now be like subconscious, like he might not even be thinking about it. But it looks like he's going there to try and get a foul as opposed to try and score 2 points. And if that's the case, then your touch and your finish and how you approach that attack um, is not going to be as sound as somebody who's trying to cram it down your throat or trying to finish at the rim, like someone like Fred. Like Fred is never trying to draw a foul. He's just trying to get in a position where he can get the ball above the rim. And so he finishes and his touch is just better than Siakam. So maybe to your point, Pascal needs to work on that. But it feels like Pascal's has ulterior motives when he's going to the rim.
Yeah. This is not hate, though. I just said on easy
Yeah,
looks,
yeah. No,
he
it's not
has
hate.
trouble finishing. That's, like, an objectively true statement over the last 2 seasons.
There's so many little rollers and dipsy doos that just can't. You're like,
Yeah. Like,
oh, and then
someone pointed out that he shot 50% today. I'm not saying, like, he's a, like, bad offensive player. I said there are easy looks that should be easier, but for him, he seems to struggle with just more than he has in past years and maybe more than he should.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah. The
uh,
floater would be nice for him because there is a lot of like kind of scoops and stuff that he struggles a little bit more with, but
yeah.
or just two-handed crams. Why the hell not?
Why was Scotty so much better at the start of the season is the question here. Do you want to take this one?
I mean, part of it, I've heard, wonders about his thumb, maybe, but I think the biggest thing is teams have time to now prepare and they know what they're dealing with. At the beginning of the season, everybody except maybe like four coaches and a general manager with the Raptors thought Scotty was going to kind of be irrelevant and just be like an energy guy that ran up and down and slapped the hardwood. And instead, he was a ball handler and a kind of a playmaker, and suddenly had a 10-foot jumper that no one thought was a thing. So that caught everybody off guard. And maybe initially they thought it was a fluke, and now they're realizing it's not a fluke. And so teams are have tape and they're scouting it and they're incorporating him into their scouting reports. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think defensively, teams are going at him way more than they did, which speaks to the scouting report. Like teams are putting him in the pick and roll a lot more than they did at the start of the season. And then offensively, I just think it's I don't actually think he's worse. I think it's a result of Siakam returning and the Raptors just being more healthy and Scotty kind of getting not as many shots and therefore not as much of a rhythm. And he's become more of like just like he is the fifth option on offense now.
Yeah.
And that eventually has to change, but I don't think he's gotten worse. He's just really taking less shots.
Fred talked about that in the press conference at the beginning of the year about Lowry and like deferring to Lowry and being a little bit more hesitant when to be aggressive. And maybe Barnes is going through the same thing with Siakam back, right? Like Siakam's the
Yeah.
guy who's been paid, and so maybe and Barnes is that kind of guy who's going to be deferential. So it could just be that.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. Like, I'm curious to see how he takes it and if he's okay just like playing second fiddle to Siakam. But it is an adjustment, and I don't really buy the idea that he all of a sudden hit a wall this early in the season. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really buy that. I think he
Well,
went I think he
I
went out last night.
I think yeah. Not that I don't know what partying is like in San Fran, but
Oh man, San Fran's a great city.
never been.
Uh, let's get to Phoenix Blaze's question. Do you think Siakam and Scotty is like Embiid and Simmons? And then he says he says Scotty can't play off ball. That's the issue. I disagree. First of all, I think Embiid and Simmons, it I mean, it was never an ideal fit, but like Scotty shoots. We know this. Simmons never shot. So Scotty's not hesitant. He made two threes today. And the mid-range pull-up has been there since the beginning of the season. So I disagree that like it's the same spacing wise. Like there's definitely more shooting in Siakam and Scotty versus Embiid and Simmons right off the bat. And then in terms of Scotty not being able to play off ball, I think we've seen Scotty as a screener this season, and it's worked, even though he was a point guard in college. So his first time really screening, like I'm sure he did in high school, but like his first time like screening in the NBA. So it's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be hard for him. I definitely think he can play off ball if he's a screener, and he's a great cutter. We know this. So I do think he does a lot of things off ball that makes him pretty easy to play alongside different people.
Yeah, and the biggest difference, obviously, I know Siakam's not Embiid, but they occupy different parts of the floor too, or they can. There's a lot of overlap, but with Embiid and Simmons, like it was entirely overlap.
Yeah.
Even though Embiid would be on the perimeter, he's like most effective in that low mid post. So I think that's the biggest difference. I agree with you. Like Barnes is willing to shoot and will shoot more and shoot probably more accurately than Simmons ever will. And I love playing Barnes, like you were saying, off ball with like even like off ball screening. Like his ability to find open space, to rebound off the glass. Like he can make himself effective when he isn't even around the ball, which Simmons could too, to be fair. But I think they can function together.
Yeah. Simmons Simmons was never really a great offensive player. I think he was just overrated for
He needed the ball in his hands to orchestrate what he wanted to orchestrate, and Barnes doesn't. Barnes can be like a linchpin in a motion offense, or he can fit more easily, I think.
they both thrive in the paint. I mean if you look around the league, like most big guys are better closer to the rim. But these guys can also do other things. Like Siakam can shoot a three, Scotty can shoot a mid-range jumper. So that just makes it a lot hard to game plan against. But like, yeah, they do both love like the post area. So I think there could be overlap, but it's too early to say.
Yeah, I think my point, they do. You're right, Phoenix, but my point is maybe their origin points of attack are more versatile than Ben's are, at least.
Yeah, like Ben Simmons was never a versatile offense player. That's what I should have said. I shouldn't have been too
Yeah.
hard on him. He was always good in transition. He's a great playmaker, but like he couldn't, yeah, like you
He's
said,
not
off
he's not
ball,
like
he could never make himself useful.
he's not ISO face up dribbling from the perimeter and then pulling up for an elbow jumper. Like that, Ben
Yeah.
would never do that. And I think there's going to be growth. So like obviously this is not the plateau of Scotty Barnes.
No,
Um,
exactly.
and so I think there's going to be less and less overlap and more synchronicity as the season and years go on.
Like maybe if you asked this in a different game, but Scotty just hit two twos tonight, which is like the most of his career, two threes, I should say.
Threes,
So,
yeah.
so that's like a really big deal for like a young guy who came into the league without a jump shot to just hit two threes. Like
Well,
if he gets some confidence shooting that shot, that's going to be huge for him and the spacing and everything.
do we know how many career 3-pointers Ben Simmons has scored?
No, I don't.
Just
I don't. I
just
don't.
Googled it.
I don't want to talk about Ben Simmons. Um, we'll end with this question from HH. Should any trades be made?
I guess I would ask in return, what do we want and or need back? Because like if right now I would say we have a glut of like
Wangs.
yeah, or like players that fit the 6 to 9 rotation. And so like ideally we would take two of those guys and a pick or a Flynn and turn it into like a higher rotation player. But the question is, who is that? And like I don't, Oren, I don't know if you saw Kyle suggested Ayton because of the discontent in Phoenix. Like I guess I'm not saying Ayton's the guy, but like that I guess that would be the next step, is finding a guy of that echelon that we can put 3 or 4 players and picks into to upgrade.
Definitely. No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, it's either that type of trade or you take a trade on like a young flyer who hasn't developed well and you hope maybe in our system he can actually become one of those guys. But I just think from like a team building and like a value perspective, I think the Raptors should for sure be sellers at the deadline. Like if you can package a few guys, a few salaries in for one guy who fits your team really well, like ideally like an elite center or like a really good center, I think that takes this team over the edge. But even if you just have to trade for the sake of like getting a couple second round picks and or maybe a first round pick or maybe a young guy who you can then in the future put into these deals that we're talking about. I want them to do that because they're not paying Boucher. His contract ends at the end of this season. They have 19 power forwards on the roster. Like they're just not paying Chris Boucher. I would
No,
be shocked. So
and he
so
can
with that being
help.
said, don't lose another guy for nothing,
Yeah,
Try. Even if it's 2 second round picks. Just
and
do
he
it.
can Boucher can help a championship team. I wholly believe that. I think he can give you he can give you 8 to 10 minutes in legit games if he plays the
He's
role
so unreliable.
that's asked of him. That's a big if.
Yeah.
But I think you see what happens when a player goes to a team like Golden State, and there's no like quibbling. Like you buy in or you ship out. And I think if he goes to the right team where that's the situation, plus he's got to play. He's trying to get paid, so he can't be an idiot. I think he can help a team.
Yeah, maybe.
Phoenix is begging for one more question.
But him and also Dragic, obviously, if you can get anything for Dragic.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Building on Siakam and Fred's timeline, getting a number one star by trading our young assets. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we just talked about before, is packaging a few young assets and picks for a star who fits this timeline. I'm definitely for that, but like this timeline doesn't mean to this year. It means like the next few years, like maybe not even next season, but the one after that, right? Um, but yeah, I think ideally that's how the Raptors have shown that they build teams is through the trade market. It's not through free agency. It's through the draft and the trade market. So I think that's kind of what we were talking about when we said like package a few of these guys together eventually and get a guy who takes them over the top. Yes, Scotty is untouchable.
Yeah, of
Scotty's
course it is.
untouchable.
But and to that point, like I don't know if you guys remember, I was impatient long ago when the Raptors couldn't find a power forward for like 4 or 5 years straight, and every year I was like Kenneth Faried, like Markieff Morris, get him, and Masai bided his time and bided his time, and I think the same thing here. It's like and with Lowry and DeRozan, it's like we weren't gonna win. We weren't gonna win with just Lowry and DeRozan, but we had to wait for the perfect moment to execute the right trade. And I think this is similar. We have a lot of time with all three guys, OG, Siakam, and Van Vliet, and we can. There might be a moment where Barnes is excelling. That one of those three guys, probably not OG, might be the trade that we need to make that championship run. It might happen.
For sure. Yeah. And the reason Scotty is untouchable because I get why you're asking Phoenix plays he. I get because it's like, yeah, how can you win on this? And I'm a person who says you can't do both in the NBA. You can't plan for the future while also winning right now. It's like that's what the Warriors are doing right now because they just used all these draft picks with on guys who aren't playing. But that's like very, very rare. But the reason Scotty's different is because he's contributing right away to like a winning team. And like you can see very clearly that Scotty is not an average 20-year-old. He's going to be able to contribute to a winning playoff team earlier than most young prospects do. That's just like the Scotty Barnes effect. So that's why he's untradeable because he can help you win right now while obviously being the future of the franchise, which
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good hour. We did it.
Congrats to
Aiden,
you Easterners for staying up this late.
yeah. Well, actually, for us, it's not that bad because we've been used to these 10 a.m. starts
True. 10
and
p.m. True.
8:30. This is not too bad. But yeah, Aiden, thanks for joining us. Dawn Yang producing. Thanks for producing the
Thanks,
show.
Don.
Um, all of our viewers, thanks so much for viewing. If you could please do us a favor and subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube channel. We noticed that most of the people watching these shows are not subscribed. So subscribe. We have some other cool stuff, videos that are ongoing as well, some other cool projects, and give us a like on the video. That helps us out as well. And yeah, we will be back on Wednesday. The Raptors are taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. It'll be there could be 5 Canadians on the floor in that game as well. So that's cool. That's
Yeah.
good
They
stuff.
just got pumped by Minnesota.
Did they?
Absolutely pumped. They
I
lost
don't
by
think Dylan Brooks
40.
was playing though. I don't think
You
Dylan
can't
Brooks was
you
playing.
can't lose by 40 to Minnesota and say it was Dylan Brooks that made the difference.
You're right. But I'm a Dylan Brooks fan and that could be a fun game. But
It will be.
Memphis, it's another big game for the Raptors, hoping to bounce back on this road trip. We've been Oren and Adon. Thanks for joining us. And until Wednesday, take care.
Peace.
Peace.